Hi. If I just lay, if I just lay here, would you lie with me and just forget the world? I apologize for my singing voice. Is it lay? Is it lie? Are the lyrics to that song correct? Find out at the end of this video. Hey, I'm Alex. Thanks for clicking, and welcome to this lesson on 10 common grammar mistakes that are accepted in casual speech. So before you accuse me of saying Alex is teaching bad grammar and all that kind of stuff, I want to specify good grammar is almost always, if not always, desirable. Yes, you should try to have correct grammar when you speak, especially when you write, and definitely avoid these mistakes if you are writing a professional email or an academic paper or a message to your boss. Avoid them in professional situations and academics. But know that almost everyone makes one or more of these errors on a regular basis. Now, it's because they never learned the proper rule in the first place, or it's just something that people have, moved into the popular sphere, into pop culture, and it's just accepted because you hear many people speaking like this, and then you start speaking this way too, and it just becomes part of the popular usage. So if you are in an informal situation, these mistakes are often accepted, and almost no one will say, hey, that's actually wrong, because there's a good chance they make the same mistakes. So what mistakes am I talking about? Well, I have my list here. I'm not going to show it to you, but I will reference it. Let's start with there is versus there are. You know the rule. You have to use there is with singular and there are with plurals. So you're supposed to say there is a car and there are two cars. But I'm sure you're aware, and maybe you make this mistake. You say, hey, there's a lot of people in here. Or, hey, there's a lot of issues we need to fix at this company. And you're supposed to say there are for plurals, but for some reason, we just say there's for everything. Not in all cases. It's not even a consistent mistake. Some people sometimes use are for plurals, sometimes use is for plurals. Know that it's not the end of the world if you say there's a lot of people, because there's a good chance your friend also says there's a lot of people. Next, this is the past tense mistake, the past tense version of the there is, there are problem, and that's there was and there were. So the same thing here. It's supposed to be singular with there was, and it's supposed to be plural with there were. For example, you're supposed to say there were a lot of them, but you may have said there was a lot of them, right? Or there was a lot of dogs at the dog park today. It should be there were a lot of dogs at the dog park. But if you say there was, again, it's not the end of the world in a casual situation. Next up, less versus fewer. So we have less problems than we did a week ago. The express aisle is for 10 items or less. These are grammatically incorrect. You probably know that you should use fewer when you're talking about things that you count. This mistake has been so internalized that grocery stores everywhere have been making it and probably don't even know that they're making it. So if you ever see a sign that says 10 items or less, know that it should say 10 items or fewer. Next up, you and me versus you and I. So you and I is what you should use when you are putting yourself and someone else in the subject position of a sentence. So let me reference my paper here. Right. You're supposed to say, my friend and I went to Cuba last month. But there's a good chance at some point in your life you have said, my friend and me went to Cuba last month. Or me and my friend went to Cuba last month. This is an accepted mistake because Everyone speaks like this, and it's accepted, and it's in popular usage. It's not the end of the world if you speak like this in a casual situation. All right. Next up, between you and I versus between you and me. So between you and me, the correct answer is between you and me. Now, why is that? It's because between is a preposition. A preposition is a word like at, on, in, with, words like these, small words that show a relationship between different words. The word that comes after a preposition, if you use a pronoun, it has to be the object pronoun, okay? So me is the object, I is the subject. Now, for some reason, there's a hypercorrection happening where we think that between you and I sounds very, very formal, when in fact, it's actually totally grammatically incorrect. So if you think you're being fancy when you say between you and I, you're actually just dead wrong grammatically. And that's another one where, okay, should I say between you and I then? You shouldn't. Try to avoid it. The correct answer is, or the correct phrase is, between you and me. Between is a preposition. It needs an object pronoun. Who, whom versus that. So he's the guy that I told you about. We should use who and whom to talk about people, but we often use that as a short form to talk about everything, whether it's objects, places, people. She's the one that he married, or she's the woman that he married, for example. Try to use who in that case, right? But if you use that, most people won't notice. That really should be reserved, though, for objects and for objects. Next up, we have should've versus should've. Now, this is more of a mistake of writing, but if you are in a situation where, it's should've, OF, it sounds like should've, the contracted form of should have. So really, the form is should have. So if you say should've and you're thinking should OF, it's wrong. Like what you're thinking in your mind is wrong. And if you write it, it's dead wrong. Never write it. It's not accepted in writing at all. Please don't. But if you think it when you're speaking, it's not wrong at all. It's actually correct because it sounds exactly like the contracted form of should've. All right. Farther versus further. So farther is only for physical distances. Further can be for physical distances or figurative distances. So if I say, wow, you can go, he went further in life, or further in his career, or further in her job, or something like this, this is fine. You're referring to a figurative distance with further. But a lot of people just don't know the difference between farther and further. So they'll say, for example, where is it here? Yeah. You will go farther in life if you, get on the keto diet. I don't believe in stuff like that, but just an example. All right. So yeah, if you use farther for figurative distance, it's not the end of the world. There's a good chance the person you're speaking to might not know that you're supposed to use further for figurative, and farther is only for physical distances. Okay, next up, in regard to versus in regards to. So which one is correct? Well, it's actually in regard to. So regard is an uncountable noun. This means it does not have a plural form. So if you write an email, make sure you write in regard to. So in regard to your last email, the answer is yes. Or in regard to your email, yes, we would be happy to help you. But if you write in regards to, or if you say in regards to, chances are only grammar teachers and those who study grammar will notice. So try to use in regard to in a professional setting, use in regard to, but that is one where there's a good chance your boss doesn't even know if it's in regards to or in regard to. So you have a little more flexibility in that one. Regards, what you put at the end of an email, or what you say, to someone, best regards. I guess it's more for writing. Means like best wishes. So you can send your regards to someone, your best wishes. But if you use in regard to versus in regards to, stick to in regard to. It's the correct form. All right, we have one more. Lie versus lay. So this is an issue of a transitive verb versus an intransitive verb. It's not untransitive, it's intransitive. So lie is an intransitive verb. What this means is that it doesn't take an object. So you can say, I'm just going to lie here for a little bit. So this means I'm going to rest, I'm going to put my body down on the bed or something like that. Lay is transitive, which means it needs an object. So if someone comes to your home and they are carrying a bunch of stuff, you can and they ask you, say, hey, can I just lay my stuff down here? That's correct. You have to lay something. You have to lay something on the bed or lay something on the floor. But if you use lie, it's just lie by itself the majority of the time. So I'm just going to lie here for a little bit. And you might hear, I'm just going to lay here for a little bit. And that is grammatically incorrect, but most people don't know the difference between lie and lay, so it's not the end of the world, as I said. What makes it even more confusing is that lie has a past form, of course, and the past form of lie is actually lay, which is the present of lay, and the past form of lay is laid. Now, you're probably confused, just as I am, when I'm explaining this, because it makes things really difficult. So let's go back to the song, this Snow Patrol song. If I just lay here, would you lie with me and just forget the world? Those are the lyrics, right? Now, based on what I've said, you might say it's wrong, because he's saying, if I just lay here, and you have to lay something. It is actually correct, though. Why? It's a second conditional sentence in that song. And if, for example, you don't say, if I have $1 million, I would buy a house. You would say, if I had $1 million. So they're saying, if I just lay here, past tense of lie, would you lie with me? You say, I would buy a house. Would you lie, which is the present of lie in this case. It's actually 100% correct. It's a second conditional sentence, and it is correct. And if you're saying, oh, it's incorrect because you can't say if I lay here. Yes, you can, because lay is the past of lie. So it works in this case. All right, so I hope you had fun with this video. I hope you've learned some things. And if you didn't, and if you knew all these mistakes, and if you're really upset right now because, why are you saying these mistakes are acceptable? I'm not saying they are acceptable. I am saying they are accepted in casual situations. And if you don't make them, bravo. You should feel good, and you should try to avoid these at all costs in professional and academic situations. Good grammar is always desirable. However, it is not always known by everybody. Okay, we all make mistakes, and because we all make them, we all kind of just accept them as well. So I'm gonna stop there. So if you want to test your understanding of this material and practice the correct forms of everything we discussed here, make sure to do the quiz on engvid.com. And if you enjoyed this video, also make sure to subscribe to me on YouTube, like the video, share it, all that good stuff. Subscribe. And I have plenty of other useful materials, useful videos for you to check out. So until next time, I have been talking for too long. I'm going to go lay down. I don't know. You tell me.